So when you walked in here, you were like, don't say to me, why are you vegan? Because like obviously we've done the research and we know you are not vegan. Talk to us about that.
Okay. Are we started?
We started?
This is what starting looks like.
Oh, good. Okay. So we want to talk about why I'm not vegan or why I'm making vegan food.
We just found it interesting because I think what Jess pointed out, which is so funny, because we were like, whoa, Shannon's not vegan. What? And then Jess was like, hang on. We have a vegan shoe label. We're not vegan. And we were like, we totally get it.
Of course.
Like,
I mean, vegans are people also, you know, and no one was looking after them, you know. And then probably about 15 years ago, I was working in a pub and I was actually working the bar at the time, and then the chef at the pub went to the bank and never came back. So it was a Friday night and we were super busy, and I hadn't at that stage let them know that I could cook because I didn't want to go in the kitchen, and generally bars and front of house is a lot easier to staff than kitchens. So once they know that you can cook, you kind of get slotted into a kitchen, and then that's where you lived, you know. But they were desperate, so I told them I could cook, and that I went in there that night and never came out, of course. And that was the first time really that people were asking for vegan food quite a lot, and it was the East Brunswick Club, so it was like a band venue. The crowd was kind of younger. Before that, I mean, even for everyone, we think 2000 and before, even 2005 and before, vegetarian, sure, vegan, not so much. Do you know?
People didn't even know what it means.
Nah, and it wasn't what vegan is now. That's for sure.
And Northside in Melbourne is really like where it was born in Melbourne, like
the way it is now, the way it's shaped now, for sure. You know, before that, I think the only thing I knew about veganism was like Hare Krishnas.
Yeah.
You know, and like the pay as you feel sort of places in the city, like the Gopals, those sort of things where you chuck in a $5 donation and you get some lentils and stuff.
Yeah, lentils.
Totally.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
you think like earthy, hemp,
hippie,
exactly.
patchouli, dreadlocks, you know, all that sort of stuff, which is, you couldn't be more opposite to that now, really. But and same with allergies too. They're like, fuck, everyone is allergic to everything now. Do you know, like you're hard pressed to find someone who says they can eat everything.
Yeah. Can you eat everything?
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah. I choose not to eat baby corn because it's disgusting, but you know.
I love that that's your one thing.
That's my one
That's
thing.
funny. I actually started eating baby corn like about 3 years ago.
Did you?
But like I totally feel it's not that nice.
Why eat it when it's so good when it's big?
Yeah,
You
totally.
know?
I've had that. Just like in a stir fry sometimes I'll chuck it in just cause.
Yeah,
Like,
just for a veg.
Well, and corn is like so fun because you can eat it like in rows, but like eating a baby corn like that,
It's just
weird.
pointless.
yeah, it's a little bit. So are you ever like I don't know, because like we obviously started our shoe label not being vegan, but like it's definitely like opened us up to this like whole world and community. I mean, we are animal friendly in everything that we do. We don't eat meat. We just like not gone that extra mile. Has it like opened you up to this community, and you're like, are you ever tempted, or like you're just like, nah, I'm not that way inclined?
I think like most people now, I eat far less meat than I used to, for sure. Do you know? And that's got a lot to do with working in the restaurants all the time, so I eat what's around me. But we don't have dairy either at the deli, so I started drinking my coffee. First I started going with almond milk, and then this new incredible oat milk came out called Oatly, which is like incredible, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm having dairy right now because that's what's in your fridge, but like at home now I'll just have Oatly. So it's just those gradual things, you know, where I used to eat meat every day, I probably eat meat like twice a week now.
Yeah.
But I think most people are like that, you know, and majority of our customers at both the restaurant and the deli are meat eaters, you know, because everyone's just reducing consumption now because we know that it's not good for you, it's not good for the environment. We don't need it anymore. So I think gone are the days where breakfast, lunch and dinner had to contain meat, otherwise it wasn't a complete meal.
Totally.
That way of thinking's gone. Even for your like tradie blokey guys, all people from all over are changing the way they eat, you know.
Yeah, well, it's actually really funny. I had a friend who had eaten at Smith and Daughters, and we were chatting about it a couple weeks later, and like we were talking about like how it's vegan, whatever, and this guy was like, no, I ate there a couple weeks ago, it's not vegan. And we were like, yeah, it is vegan. And he was like, guys, you're idiots, I ate a schnitzel. And we were like, you ate a vegan schnitzel. And he literally went and ate it and had no
I love that.
idea.
That's my ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
When a meat eater can't tell.
Yeah.
Do you know, because
he's like, now I think about it, and we're like, nah, you didn't know.
You didn't know.
And
And sometimes we actually get in a bit of grief for that. And, you know, I've had people get quite aggressive with me when they've found out they're eating vegan food.
Really?
I think, you know, especially.
Like
God forbid they
annoyed.
should be eating
Right?
vegetables.
Exactly. When
What,
I had
like you tricked them or something.
like I tricked them.
Yeah.
Or they feel it was mostly like when I had a food truck at the People's Market. There was this group of dudes that sort of came up and they were pretty bro-y, do you know?
Yeah.
And I did a vegan pulled pork, and they sent one of their mates to come and get one. I could sort of see what was happening just from watching the situation. But he went away, he ate it, he came back. He's like, that's the best fucking pulled pork sandwich I've ever had. And his mates all started laughing. And then he felt like we were taking the piss. And then he got really in my face about it. So that can also, it can go both ways.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
God, yeah, like you said, God forbid you'd eat something that doesn't contain flesh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like, how could people possibly be angry about that?
Yeah.
And then how do you kind of deal with that when that happens?
I just tell people to get out, really.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we don't excuse any of that kind of behaviour, especially at the restaurant and the deli with the staff. If anyone tries to get their back up, well, firstly, you can tell by the tables. Like anyone that tries to start bringing any of this up, the table just all starts shrinking, you know, and they're embarrassed, and it is stupid, you know.
Yeah.
And they'll all come around eventually.
Yeah, like it's just food at the end of the day.
Was
Like,
it yum?
It's funny
Yeah.
that you talk about it because it's like it's such like a light-hearted thing, and I
It's
don't
so
understand how it
stupid.
could escalate. To
And
that
wouldn't
level.
you, if I could give you something, and this is in my mind what's going to turn veganism into a completely mainstream thing and reduce meat consumption almost completely, is the minute that we can make something vegan that tastes exactly the same as meat, is as good for you and cheaper, why would you not?
Yeah.
Why would you eat something that was alive if you literally could eat something that was plant-based and couldn't tell the difference? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, and I don't even think people come to your restaurants because, you know, it is vegan. It's because it's like genuinely some of the most delicious
It's
food
yum.
that you can get in
Yeah.
Melbourne.
That's, no, thank you.
Yeah. So, you know, if you can offer people that and it's vegan,
Why wouldn't
then
you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they
You're
going
actually
that
just being
route?
an asshole if you don't. Like if you're like,
Yeah.
I could have it and it's just the same, but I'm not going to anywhere. I'd rather eat the pig.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
just stupid. You
Yeah,
know?
get out.
Yeah, yeah.
So you do have kind of like a very colorful past, and like the more we were reading about you, the more we were just like jaw dropping, so fascinated by you. So in addition to being a chef, you kind of have this whole like musical past, which is where you came from, and it was some kind of like rock. I'm gonna like not do it justice if I like even try to describe it.
I'm gonna say you were a classical violinist and a bassist in a gothic industrial metal band called Voltaire.
Oh my God, the research on these ladies is so refreshing. Yeah, that's correct. Actually, I started playing violin when I was 4,
Awesome.
maybe younger. I can't remember. You know, the violin is so tiny.
Was that your parents got you into
the
it?
violin is
Yeah,
so
it's
tight.
you know, if you look at them, it's like the size of your hand. You know, it's baby ones. Yeah, mum. I think was always sort of regretted that she never played music, and so I think it was important for her to sort of get an instrument into her hands young. My brother didn't really continue with that, but I just went full steam ahead with that, and I played I think maybe 6 instruments I can play, and violin was my main focus, and was in symphony orchestras as well, and then from 14, I was in the Q High rock band, as we were made to be called. And then a few bands, all, you know, leading up all through high school, basically just Smashing Pumpkins, rip-off bands, you know. And then with Voltaire, and then with that band, 2006, I got married, and he was a professional skateboarder, and he was one of the characters in the Tony Hawk games.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
What do you mean he was one of the characters?
like one of the skateboarders that you could choose to play.
Oh, that's
That
awesome.
you could choose to be.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So he
and what a life achievement is that?
to be on a game.
Yeah.
I know. Hopefully
Like,
they
we
have a
should all be
cooking
on
game
it. Yeah,
soon.
totally. Maybe like the MasterChef game.
I
or
reckon
something.
throwing pans and stuff instead of using guns.
Yeah.
That's good. So he used our band's music as the music that played in the background when you played his character, and through that we got put on the Vans Warped Tour in America, and we played, I think it was like 13 states, and we got to jump on the Volcom tour bus and, you know, sleep in those tiny little coffin beds on the tour buses and play from state to state. And I even cooked there, because like you play for 45 minutes a day, but then that's sort of it. And a lot of these locations were just in the middle of nowhere, so you couldn't really leave the venue, you know, like big day outs and things like that.
Yeah.
So I decided to work for free for the caterers, because I just missed cooking a lot in the
Okay,
meantime.
because that's what I was like interested in. Like when you were like full blown music, was chefing like a total not a thing, or were you still interested in that the whole time?
That's sort of how I decided to focus on cooking, because even though I was playing music the whole time, cooking was always the thing that was the number one for me, you know. And I spoke to my mother one day, and I was talking to her about exactly this, like, which one am I going to do? And, you know, I'm still in my early 20s. I can still, you know, focus on one. And she said, what's the first thing that you think of when you're waking up, and what's the last thing you think about when you're going to bed? And it was food, and it wasn't music, even though I was there playing on the Warped Tour. So that was kind of, for me, how I was like, all right, this is going to be the one.
That's such a great piece of advice.
It
Yeah, I
is
know.
good,
That's such
eh?
an easy test.
Right.
Simple.
It is so simple. People,
Yeah, cut the bullshit.
Yeah, cut the bullshit.
What are you
That's
thinking about?
Actually, and it was that simple. You know, and I mean, music had been around for me longer than food, because I've been playing since I was 3 or 4, but and it's still today. I get home after working for 12 hours and I cook dinner still, and I still write recipes. So it's just all consuming.
Is music still a part of your life
I
now?
miss it so much.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, playing gigs and things is always on restaurants' busiest nights.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit hard. And, you know, I would be that one asshole in the band that's always cancelling rehearsal.
Yeah.
So I do want to get back into it eventually, but it will just have to be the right time. But
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool though that like you're not someone that's just like longing for something that you don't have. It's not like once you started getting into food and cooking, you were like thinking about music again. It's cool that it was actually this thing that was just like drawing you in.
There was no choice.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
And what I also think is really cool with what you've created with Smith and Daughters is like you can sense that like kind of rock and roll vibe from
In
it.
the
Like
restaurant.
you've kind of like paired your two loves, even though it might not be you behind the instrument.
Yeah.
There's definitely that kind of like meaning of both
100%.
passion.
That's it. And music in the restaurant's always been super important to me, and I spend a bit of time making the playlists and things. And you know, it's every baby goth's dream to own a restaurant that's all black and you get to play Sisters of Mercy in it. So it's been really fortunate, you know, and even down to the logo having a giant upside down crucifix. I mean, this is dreams come true, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's like all part of the Smith and Daughters experience. Like it's not just about the food. It's not just about the place. It's like about all of the elements just like coming together really perfectly.
Correct. And, you know, we've never tried to be a fine dining restaurant. It's not my style of cooking or eating. I don't really... It's not where I choose to go out myself. So I wanted it to just be... It's a little bit louder than most people like, I think. And, you know, the staff are a little bit looser maybe than your average fine dining type restaurant. But it is more so you can just relax and get a little messy and eat heaps of food.
And it's just like super delicious. Like I always tell people I don't like fancy food, and they're quite shocked because like I consider myself a foodie. I love going out for food, but I'm like, I just want something super delicious and hearty, not like with... I'm doing these actions with my hands, but you know when it's like
sprinkling.
No tweezer action.
Yeah,
no foams.
exactly.
I'm
Foams.
totally the same. I hate that shit.
Yeah.
Do you know, I go to a place called Tina's Noodle Kitchen 2-3 times a week for a bowl of $12 noodles that are my favorite thing in the country. Do you know, and I will take that over a 10-15 course degustation dinner any day of the week.
Totally.
You know, because that's what I crave. You don't wake up craving that fine dining
Yeah,
shit.
you just want a good hearty meal.
Yeah, or something your mum used to make or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
that's what you really, you know, you kind of like gagging for.
Soul food.
Yep.
For sure. So when you kind of did realize that cooking was what you wanted to pursue, how did that become vegan cooking? Was that when you were in that
In the pub.
restaurant in East Brunswick?
Yeah.
The pub?
So I was getting asked for vegan dishes more often, and it was actually just starting to get a bit of it was becoming a hassle to come up with things on the spot. And because it was happening quite often, I decided to make this dish, which now I look back on and cringe. But it was the vegan parma, right? And that's kind of the thing that started. And, you know, I'm not trying to sound full of myself, but the new wave of vegan food in Melbourne was this dish. And I like I said, I knew nothing about...
So what was in it? Like what was the
It was
meat
a piece of
replacement?
vegan chicken from an Asian grocer. So I went down to Footscray just to try and figure out what was around, what was available, because you couldn't go to Coles and buy anything like this back then. Went to a place called Vincent's Vegetarian, and they only stock vegan substitutes. And it's just a whole shop full of freezers. So it's, you know, it's not the nicest of stores. Like it's pretty ugly actually. But they have like vegan lobsters, and they've got vegan beef tendons. They've literally
cool.
So
anything you could possibly
Does it
imagine.
still exist now?
It's still there, yeah.
And like so ahead of its time.
Well, I mean, these mock meats have been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, just like for religious reasons. And stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
okay.
so they've actually have been there. It's just the Westerners haven't gone and checked it out really until more recently, you know. But it's been there for a really long time. And I remember walking to the shop for the first time and seeing these vegan lobsters and being like, "What the fuck is going?" And then everything changed from there, you know. And so I bought this chicken, and being from an Asian grocer, everything does tend to have that flavor profile. So a lot of these products are very heavily spiced with 5 spice, which makes no sense with the Parma whatsoever.
Yeah.
But
You had to go with it.
I just went with it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by this thing is terrible now when I look at it. And I was asked to do it for a TV show and I refused because they were talking about iconic Australian dishes and they asked me to make it and I said, no, I can't go back there. And so they wouldn't put me on the show because I wouldn't do the dish.
Oh my God. But isn't it funny that I think like everyone looks back at their first thing that they did and thinks it's terrible. Like when we look at our first shoes, they're just shocking,
they're
embarrassed by them.
Even last season makes me nauseated. Every time we create something new, I'm like, ew, how did I think that was cool?
It's the same with eyebrows.
For sure.
So how did I do them like that in high school?
Yeah, like where were they?
So, I mean, that Parma is still getting made by someone that used to work for me all the way back then.
No way.
Yeah, at a place called the
They
Cornish
should have gotten them on the
Arms.
TV show.
They should have.
Yeah.
It lives on. Yeah, but I think that's the thing that like you can look back and think it was terrible, but it's what
It
gave
was
you a
instrumental.
start. Yeah,
it was
exactly.
instrumental to the way that we eat now, vegan food in Melbourne, to my career. Do you know? Like it was, like I said, looking back on it, it's so terrible. But if it wasn't for that one dish, like probably Smith and Daughters wouldn't exist.
Yeah. So from that point, then so I love that you were at the People's Market. So then is it just like you were cooking there and then you did People's? How did that come in?
No, there was a few spots in between. So after the East Brunswick Club, the person who was managing that opened a place called the Gasometer Hotel.
Okay.
And that was on Smith Street in Collingwood. And again, that was, so I came over. A lot of like the main kids from the East Brunswick Club all moved over. I ran the kitchen and it was another 50-50 meat and vegan menu.
Okay.
But
Which I feel like is so common now in pubs. Like it's
you
just,
kind of
like,
have
taken
to as a
over.
food business in
Yeah.
general. Do you know, like you're just sort of shooting yourself in the foot if you don't.
Yeah.
Even in a business sense, do you know, like even if you don't care about the ethics or anything like that. But the gasometer was really where the food sort of started becoming a little bit more elevated, still compared to today, nothing. But, you know, like one of the dishes that I still have at the restaurant was developed there. So that, you know, was one of the Spanish mushrooms, which is the recipe that I'll never give away and, you know, caused a riot when I took it off the menu for a while because I've been cooking it for 15 years. Those things all started there. So the gasometer happened. Again, another band venue, another big band venue.
Yeah.
So younger demographics still. And then
and at this point, are you like, you know, are you a serious go-getter? Like, do you have big hopes and dreams for this, or are you the kind of person that you were just like in this and loving what you were doing?
I've always been full steam ahead for anything that I do, really.
We couldn't tell.
Vegan food definitely was becoming a strong focus for me, but I think I was still sort of toying around with the fact of whether I wanted to go completely vegan, because I sort of try to explain it to people because I'm not vegan and I focus on vegan food. It's almost like if you're a writer and you weren't allowed to use vowels.
Yeah.
You know, like I can do so many things, but when you're making a dish and you know what it needs, but you can't use it because you're not allowed because it's not vegan.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I wasn't sure whether I was ready to let go of being able to have the full spectrum of every ingredient under the sun to use.
Yeah, and I guess when you aren't, like, I am a writer, and so when I'm thinking about that, I'm kind of thinking, well, I guess you just have to be forced to be more creative.
Totally. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that started becoming a really attractive part of it for me because I don't have ADD, but you know, those tendencies of just, I get bored very easily. I like to push. I'm fast, always busy, you know, and I can get sidetracked with things if they don't grab me straight away.
Yeah.
So the vegan thing was cool because, you know, it doesn't take a genius to have a good piece of meat and cook it and make it taste good, but try and make that same piece of meat out of gluten flour or a pulse or something. And you really have to start getting creative, and you don't learn this shit in school. You know, apprenticeships don't teach you how to make this stuff. Like there's one day on dietaries for an apprentice.
Yeah.
Like one day, which is, they really need to obviously amp that up a
Change
little
that,
bit because
yeah.
we've changed the way we eat.
What star sign are you?
Capricorn.
Is that like very Capricorn, all of this stuff that you're describing about your personality?
I actually don't really know much about that.
Oh, I don't know about Capricorn
Okay,
either.
this is funny because I was out for dinner with a Capricorn last night, and obviously because star signs are so hot right now, so we started chatting about it, but I can't remember exactly what she was saying, and I sat there being like, I'm a Leo and I don't know anything about anyone else's star signs, and they were like,
That's
oh my
so
God,
Leo?
that is so Leo.
I actually was chatting to my friend who's a Capricorn on the weekend, Dean. So I feel like Dean is like what we can go off as a Capricorn, because he was saying he's such a Capricorn, and he is the
Yeah.
biggest fucking go-getter. Like,
Really?
he is 100% in on anything. He can make
actually,
anything
now that
happen.
you mentioned that,
Uh-huh.
you kind of remind me a bit of him.
Really?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
Does he have blue hair too?
No, but
Not
I'll suggest
today.
it to him.
Yeah.
I can see it.
I thought we were supposed to be quite grounded people, which I guess I definitely am. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, I'm still sort of the mum of my business, but I'm just the frantic mum.
Yeah.
Really? Do you know?
Fair enough. You've got a lot going on.
Yeah. So then gasometer, then People's Market. And that was the first time. That was at the point where actually a friend of mine had a cafe called the Mercy Seat, and enter Mo, she...
Your business partner.
yes, my
Your
ex-business
then business
partner, my
partner.
then business partner. She was hired to run this thing called the People's Market, which was a giant outdoor market in Collingwood.
We actually
So-
frequented the market.
It was the best, right?
was
That
so
summer was
good.
the best.
It was so good. And so this is a really funny tie-in because we didn't realize that was you, but our cousin was doing Paperboy Kitchen.
Oh, right.
So that's why we were there.
Right
so
opposite
often.
me.
Yeah.
And like every time we were there, we always saw this like hectic line outside.
Insane.
Like everyone was pointing like, oh, that's the vegan place.
Yeah.
Like obviously we had to have Paperboy
Yeah,
every time
of
we were there, so
course,
we never
of
ended up
course.
trying it
Good for the
before.
family.
But yeah, so that was when we were reading about that. We're like, no way.
Yeah,
That's
there we
hilarious.
go. So we sort of have met before, kind of.
Kind
Kinda.
We've seen you.
So Mo was hired to run that market, and she approached my friend who had this cafe, and he wasn't really ready to do something like that on his own. But I knew him through the Gasometer Hotel, so we sort of joined forces a little bit, and him and I decided to do that together. And it was at that point where I was trying to decide, should I go veggie and vegan, or can an all vegan business be sustainable? So because it was a relatively low risk situation, because it was a restaurant in a shipping container, we went all vegan, and needless to say, it went off. And, you know, we had 40-minute lines like every day, just non-stop. And most of the food trucks in there, it was a monthly rotation, but we were allowed to stay there the whole time.
So good.
Because Mo was vegan too, and she wanted to make sure there was always a vegan option.
Yeah.
And then that's when we decided that we would be a good team, and Mo and I would open up a restaurant together. And I've been wanting to open up a restaurant forever, but I'm not really, you know, doing the books and all that sort of stuff is not really my forte. You know, I'm more the creative side. So I really needed someone that was going to be able to focus on the business part of the business more as well to help me out.
Well, totally. That's so important to like have somebody that balances out your skill
If you're just
set.
all creative and nothing else, then
Yeah,
Nothing's
we,
gonna
we,
go
to
we
shit.
don't have anyone doing that in our business right now. And,
Yeah.
As I say,
we
it's
struggle.
so important.
It's so well. See, now I have an incredible accountant, which
Yeah.
is very
That-
important. So
Well,
they
that's-
just
yeah.
tell me what I need to do now. Do
There
you
you
know?
go.
Yeah, that's good.
So as long
Yeah,
as
it doesn't have to be a
guide me-
partner. Yeah, exactly.
No.
You just have to get the right
Just
people
an
around
advisor
you.
almost, you know,
Exactly.
like if,
Exactly.
and don't be stupid and think that you can do it all yourself. Like it's not my strong point, so I'm not going to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
Hire
Yeah.
someone that's really, really good at it, and as long as they can tell you, like, Shan, you need to drop your food costs by 5%, I can do that. But just tell them, you know, but figuring out those steps sometimes for me takes me a little longer. So if I just have someone telling me what I need to do, I can make all that stuff happen, you know. So
Well, and it's a great personality trait to be able to recognize that and be like,
Yeah,
no,
what you're
I'm
good at and
not
what
good
you're
at
shit
this.
at.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Totally.
Some people can't do that.
yeah, don't be that
Yeah.
arrogant. It's only going to ruin your business.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
know?
and it's a hard thing as well, starting your own business. I think we all try to be everything. So that's like step one to realize what you're bad at.
Exactly. It's like AA for business.
So, what year was this?
Was it 2014 that you started?
The restaurant opened in 2014.
Yeah.
So,
So
People's
like a
Market.
bit before.
Yeah,
Maybe
because I
20
went to Sweetwater after People's Market,
Okay.
and that was this side of the city. So that was south side the first time, almost the first time
Oh
I'd
my
ever driven
God,
over the river.
Southside.
Oh my goodness.
We almost
Because-
got you back over, but we're still in Richmond, so I think it's technically not.
Yeah, I think you're cool. And then my publisher's just before the water too, so I
Yeah.
don't have to
Feel.
cross.
We actually live in Windsor, so.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no, so I was just gonna say, because I guess like 2013-ish, let's call it, like, you know, at that point, like even when we were starting our footwear brand, like we were very like careful not to use the word vegan, like we were like going with animal friendly. That was our thing, because I feel like back then
It's a dirty word.
it was a bit of a dirty word.
Totally.
Still, like, did you find that, was that scary?
Yeah, well, we never said vegan, really. We always said plant-based.
Yeah, isn't that
Okay.
interesting?
Yeah, we don't say the word vegan in the menu at all.
Oh, you still don't?
I think it's still got bad connotations, really, and it sounds a little bit more only targeted to vegans, whereas plant-based, a meat eater, I think it resonates with them a little bit more than vegan.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think plant-based is a nice term that more people are coming around to, because it's like got that like
For everything.
Yeah.
It's for everyone, whereas vegan is for vegans maybe in some people's
Yeah.
heads. I don't know. People work different in weird ways, and the way they preconceived notions of certain foods. But yes, so we have obviously the giant crucifix that has "Eat Vegan" written on it on the wall, but that's the only place, and that initially wasn't even going to exist either. So initially there was going to be no mention of it whatsoever. But I don't think we'll ever say vegan chicken on the menu.
Yeah.
You know, we had the health department sort of threaten us a little while ago with the fact that they might make us stop calling things.
Oh, I love that you call things by just like the meat
Yeah.
that they are.
Well, what
Yeah.
else am I going to call it?
Yeah, exactly.
Gluten blob. Do you know what I mean? Like, and people ask me all the time, and it's so irritating. You know, why do you have to call it that? I'm like, well, what? You tell me what I should call it.
Yeah, well, and that's what people can relate it to. Like, oh, I know I'm eating a chicken schnitzel, not a veal schnitzel.
You-
You know, like
you know what
that's
to
the-
expect.
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
what flavors it's gonna
Totally.
be.
Like if I say to you salami, you can taste it and sort of feel it without even having to actually eat it, like a pepperoni pizza. You can order.
Yeah.
Not like something that's pink and salty.
Totally. What's that?
It's not
means
appetizing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to give someone a point of reference. So when the health department told me they were going to be looking at not allowing people to use those terms, obviously that's meat and dairy industry coming right in there and trying to squash all
Yeah.
this stuff, because this is a pretty scary time for them, I would say, and they're all
Totally.
scrambling to figure out what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
But I just sort of said to the person from the health department, I'm like, okay, well then in that case, Maggi 2-minute chicken noodles, you'll be taking the word chicken out of that.
Well,
Pringles
that's
chicken chips,
true.
you're taking the word chicken out of that too.
Touche.
Very
Right?
true.
Yeah.
So like until you get to that point where everything is going to be like crossed off, then I'm not moving anything.
Yeah. Like, what would chicken chips be called? Like green.
Yeah, what
Salty
You
sweet.
can't
See,
describe
you
it
can't
without it.
describe
Well,
it.
maybe they would need to have like the word mock in front of it or something like
and
that.
as if Pringles is ever going to say mock,
Mock
chicken,
chicken.
Pringles.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
come
disgusting.
on.
Nobody
Exactly.
wants that.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants that.
Mock anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like France has already banned the terms to be used with vegan products. It's already happened.
Really?
Yeah.
They've banned like
Chicken, I was saying like sausages, vegan
no
sausages.
way.
It's already been banned. But it hasn't here yet, but I will kick up the biggest stink if they even try.
Yeah, it's like it should be the opposite. Like it's a good thing if people wanted to eat chicken and then they ate mock chicken. Like we should all be celebrating that.
Totally.
Well,
but
but
meat industry is not celebrating that.
No.
because that's
Yeah,
coming straight out of
exactly.
their pocket.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it comes down to. It's not about you know, it's nice to think that people care about the world and about people, but ultimately what it comes down to is like they're the ones with influence because they pay the stuff.
Correct. And this country runs off agriculture, you know, and the meat and dairy industry is a massive part of Australia as a country, and we lose, if we lose that, then that it's quite a big impact as well. So there
Yeah.
is a lot of people very nervous,
Yeah.
and rightly so, because this is something
'Cause we're
that's not
coming
going
for
away.
you.
Exactly. This is not going anywhere.
Yeah,
Which is
and-
why now a lot of these mock meat companies are all starting to be owned by meat production companies, do
Yeah,
you know,
I
because
saw
it's
that
like,
with Beyond Meat.
yeah, it's like you can't beat them, join them, really.
Yeah, well,
and that's
and that's a
great.
good thing.
Put your
Yeah,
money towards
exactly.
that instead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's why I guess it has to be a bit of a slow shift, unfortunately. It can't just be an overnight because we need time for like all these industries to like shift and find a new way of being, and
Exactly.
eventually they will.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
So once you did your little stints outside and you were opening up Smith and Daughters, I mean, was it an overnight success? Because from the outside,
it
it
was.
totally feels like that.
Yeah, it ruined us from the start. We tried to open for lunches too, and that lasted one day, and then we had to stop.
Why?
So,
Right, because it was too busy.
Too busy, yeah. And the restaurant's in a heritage listed building, It's the oldest pub in Fitzroy, actually, and we can't knock down walls or anything because of that. And so our kitchen is really small, and our cool room is about the size of your couch. So it is ridiculously small. And, you know, on an average night, we're doing about 200 covers anyway. So we literally have to make the menu from scratch almost every day because we can't store enough food to make bigger batches of things.
Whoa.
So
Can you not get like an off-site
we don't have
nearby?
anywhere to put it. We don't even have anywhere to put our rubbish bins. They have to stay on the footpath.
Oh my
Which
God.
is one of the annoying things of being in an area like Fitzroy. Do you know, there's not.
Have you thought about moving, or this is just like your
Yeah,
place?
I would love to.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Do you know? And that's why the deli opened, actually, because the deli opened to support the restaurant, but then the deli got bigger than the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we once again ruined ourselves by not going into a big enough location, which, you know, I'm actually having... I'm changing the setup of the deli at the moment, so that will all be a new experience soon.
Oh, cool. Well,
Well, it's
I
a
would
pretty-
like to be able to sit at the deli. Can I put in
Yeah.
my request? Because
See, I still can't do that. There's not enough room. I need a new building.
yeah, because in summer it's fine and it's really nice because we live in Windsor.
Yeah.
So like if I'm gonna come there, it's fine because I'll get a sandwich and I'll sit outside.
You don't like eating in the
park,
rain?
Whatever. Yeah, but
In
winter,
the
like
gutter in the rain?
I just don't come. I would like to, but like there's nowhere for me
I know.
to sit.
I know. It's you can come out the back and eat in the kitchen with us.
Perfect. It
Yeah.
sounds like
Now
there's
that
no
we're
room
mates.
there.
Yeah, the kitchen's all right, actually.
Oh, okay.
It's just the front. And it is a pain, you know, and that's why I'm changing the layout. There still won't be seating because they're still not big enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to eventually do a whole different setup completely. I was looking at that Little Creatures building for a while, and I wanted to have a huge
Ooh, that's a
setup.
great space.
Yeah, almost like a Katz's Deli kind of situation.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
That's a lot of money and a lot of time. So while I'm in this alone and without investors, so this is all personally financed and
Yeah.
everything.
Well, if there are any investors listening who want to get involved,
That'd be great.
Well, so from, you know, like the food truck where everybody was just like already lining up for you, to Smith and Daughters, to Smith and Deli, to the 2 cookbooks you've had, it just feels like everything you've touched has just totally turned to gold.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Does
lucky.
it feel like that for you? Or does
Yeah.
it feel like you just like found the right thing for you?
I feel like I've worked my ass off to make this happen the way it's happened. It hasn't just come just for nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's been a lot of thought and trialing and doubt, and I still think I've fluked it quite often even with the food that I make, do you know? But it hasn't come without busting my ass for it. So I feel lucky that people have loved it so much, but it hasn't come at no cost, you know? Like I've
Totally.
I didn't just win the jackpot and just score a lucky, you know, fortunate situation. Like
Yeah.
15 years to focus on vegan food for that long, it was a bit of a leap, do you know, and trying to change the way it's perceived. And now vegan food is in the mainstream media because of what we do, so much more than it would have been before. Do you know, if you take Smith and Daughters out of the equation with vegan food in the Melbourne food scene, especially, like we were never in the Good Food Month events, and there was never vegan options in any of this shit. Now we're in all of it because of it, and because we've gotten there and broken through. Now other vegan businesses are now getting that chance to come through and shine as well, and I'm all for supporting vegan businesses opening up, and everyone does something super different. You know, Smith and Daughters is different to everything else, and you've got all these businesses opening that are all just building this epic sort of little vegan empire, and no one's doing it better than Melbourne, in my opinion.
And that's really cool to hear that you can like support other people doing it as well, and you're not like seeing them as a competition.
No.
You're all kind of building each other up, and
It's
you
great.
all exist
Together.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all doing different things, you know, and there's room for all of us. And in so many of these restaurants are opening up, they're all my staff that have started with me years ago anyway. And so, you know, everyone's sort of branching out and doing their own things, and it's really great. And how I cook is different to how other people cook, and vice versa. So we're all, you know, we need the competition anyway. It makes you work harder.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, you know, if it's just me and no one else, then I could get a bit lazy.
Totally, for sure. And you mentioned having doubts in there. How have you kind of like dealt with that? Like,
I just try and shove the thoughts to the back of my head.
keep cooking.
That sounds
just keep
healthy.
Yeah, that feels like the kind of personality type that you are, that you were just like, I keep moving
Yeah,
forward.
forwards.
Yeah.
And if you run away from the thoughts fast enough, eventually they quieten down. They'll always be there, you know. And I never had chef mentors growing up in a traditional style of sort of an apprenticeship. So I don't really have anyone to ask questions to or lean on for advice with vegan food, because
Yeah,
I worked it out
paving the
myself.
way.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, I've missed out a little bit on that, whereas a lot of other chefs, they came under other people and they have them as a support network. So if I can't figure things out, sometimes it gets a bit overwhelming because I don't have anyone to help me.
Yeah.
But that's okay. Then we always get there in the end. And then when I do, it's like extra victorious.
Well, and do you feel like that you are like kind of like able to offer that onto people now? Like, I saw you posted a photo on Instagram the other day that was like support your like chef girl gang or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, are you a lot of women chefs in the kitchen?
We were all female for a while. The only
Really?
men in the kitchen were the dishes.
That's so cool because it's like I have friends that are chefs and it just sounds like the most male dominated, like sexual gross place to work for a
It was.
female.
It's not really anymore.
Yeah. I have some horror stories.
I've
Like,
got some
I
horror
just
stories
can't
for you
believe
too.
it.
But it's changed. And I get asked this all the time, and it's actually starting to become a bit of a redundant conversation for me just because it has changed a lot in the last few years. It was really shit. And granted, I've had my ass slapped and been, yelled at really badly and humiliated because I've been a female in an all-male kitchen. But that was a long time ago, and it's changed. And, I haven't walked into a kitchen. I did an event in Sydney a little while ago where all the cleaning equipment was in a tub labelled housewife.
What?
Which was pretty shocking.
That's terrible.
Yeah, pretty shocking. So it's still there,
Yeah.
but not in my kitchen and not in my friends' kitchens.
Yeah.
Like we don't run those sort of ships anymore, and you can't. Kitchens like mine, I focus now more on, even though a lot of my chef, actually now I've got more men in my kitchen than I ever have before, just because, not for any other reason. But I find the best way to move forward is to train the men that are in my kitchen how to run these cohesive, equal kitchens. So when they move on, if they happen to be in a kitchen where there's some dick male chef in there, he can bring what he's learned from Smith and Daughters into there and try and sort of fix that situation a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the women in
awesome.
my kitchen will always feel secure and safe and supported. And, if anyone fucks with us, then they're out straight away. Like there is no time for bullshit or misogyny or any of that bro-y stuff. We don't do that. And the minute that comes to the surface, they're out.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I think, like we do a lot with like, inspiring women and getting groups of women together and women building each other up, which I think, has been happening more and more over the last kind of like 5 or 10 years. But I think what you just said about now, like bringing men into that and teaching men how to exist in this way
Totally.
is a really important part of it.
Yeah, and not forgetting that there are some incredible men out there that are on our side anyway. Do you know?
For sure.
My partner, he is one of the biggest advocates and a very vocal advocate for women's rights and equality and all that. And it's actually quite interesting that because it still isn't equal, no matter how much everyone seems to think it is or wants to say it is. He's got a very loud voice in terms of people paying attention to what he says in the public. So when he makes a stance against, say, in awards where not one woman was nominated, people really listen to him. Yeah. Whereas I find still when I say certain things, I can be taken as a nagging bitch.
Yeah.
But when a man comes up and talks about it, then people really start taking notice because like, well, it must be a thing if a dude thinks it's wrong.
Well, and if that's what it takes for other men who think like that to change their opinion, then great.
So
we need those men.
We need these men, and there
out.
are plenty. And I've got some incredible men in my life who are super supportive. And when they're going somewhere, they bring me with them just to make sure that it's equal and it's fair. So I'm in no means saying that like. Men are shit. Man, like I'm not saying that. There are more positives than negative men in my life. That's for sure.
We also don't say that, but then we have someone who works with us, Joel, who's obviously a guy, Joel. But he is always like, I'm the first to say that men are shit, and so like we just like sit back and we're like, okay, Joel, like you can say that, like we'll let you.
Yeah,
but we can't.
Yeah, because it's not moving forward in a positive way if you're just bitching about it the whole time, like because there are so many positives and so many positive men out there, so we need to sort of find them and bring them in, celebrate them too, because just being negative isn't helping anybody.
100%.
So we wanted to ask you about something that happened to you recently, which is the coolest thing to have ever happened to anyone, which is you cooked for Billie Eilish.
So I was out for dinner last night and I told my friends that I was coming here with you, and one of them's vegan, and I just thought they would have a zillion questions, and one of them was just like, wait, you have to ask about Billie Eilish. And I was like, oh yeah, it's on there, don't worry.
The embarrassing thing about that is I didn't know who Billie Eilish was when I was on the way to cook for her.
No, but now you know and love all her songs, right?
She's incredible.
She's the best.
I can't believe I maybe because I don't listen to the radio or anything like that. I only listen to the music I put on through Spotify.
She's come up really quickly, to be fair. Like, she was big last year, but then as of January this year when she released her album, now she's
Massive.
like the biggest
Well, I
thing
cooked
ever.
for her last year too and didn't even know.
No
no.
way.
Yeah, but I didn't. I honestly,
So
it could have been a dude for all I knew. Do you know what I mean? Like, and so I put it on the car just so I didn't look like an idiot in case I was asked something. I was like, fuck, this is awesome. She is incredible. This young powerhouse of a woman is just incredible. And her music is sick. And I can't
like her
believe
vibe
it's
and her
mainstream.
style is like very you as well. Like, I feel like you guys would get along.
Yeah, like,
well,
how did she find you?
I actually don't know. Someone just called me up to cook for her.
So is she vegan?
Yeah, her whole family's vegan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they sound like such a cool family.
Yeah, they're great. Well, her brother...
Yeah,
Yeah.
her and her brother work together.
Yeah, they work
and-
together, and he's the support act for her. So I just went. Luckily, she liked Italian food, so I just bought a bunch of stuff from the restaurant. And I was told that there was a proper kitchen set up when I was there, but it was kind of not like that at all. So it was a little bit of a ghetto setup. But she told me that I'd cooked for her the year before. I actually didn't realise, and she was like, "You're the one that cooked backstage for Laneway last year, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Oh, I thought so. I was there." I was like, "Oh, sorry."
Oh my God. So wait, Billie Eilish remembered you and you didn't remember Billie Eilish. That is amazing. It's so good.
It's good. So, and she was lovely. I mean, she's just a rad 17-year-old.
Yeah, she just seems like a cool chick.
Yeah, and she's just a teenager. Do you know, she's not this bougie, and you know, she's not trying to be older than she is. She's just a fun, rad chick. Do you
Yeah,
know?
so cool.
So we're hoping to be able to cook for her again soon. So we could.
Do you have many opportunities like that come up where like
Heaps.
people call you and be like, this person's in town, they want you?
That's the pro of being the vegan guy in Melbourne, really.
Yeah,
Totally.
you're like the only
I'm
option.
the one that they come to.
Someone
If they
demands
have
vegan.
to.
Yeah, I guess, you know. Yeah, we've had heaps of cook for Morrissey and No Effects, and
Amazing.
Hilary Duff came in once. Not that I know what she does at all. I
Oh my
think
God,
she was
we
TV.
know everything that she does.
Oh,
She's
well,
on
there
this
you go.
TV show that we love called Younger.
Oh, really? Well, she doesn't tip. So there. So we generally get that. You know, the one that got away was Rob Zombie came out. And he's one of my favorites of all time. And he came a week before the restaurant opened, so I couldn't cook for him. I was devastated. So
So do a lot of them come to the restaurant?
Yeah.
Or you cook for them?
both.
Okay.
So either we'll bring food backstage or they'll come to the restaurant. I guess it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
You know, I had Marco Pierre White in a few weeks ago, which I was shitting myself over. I mean,
No doubt.
I mean, I see him more as a friend now anyway, because, you know, we've spent quite a bit of time together and I've stayed at his house in England and things like this. But when you have someone like him who's notorious for what he's notorious for, you know, being pretty vocal about whether something's shit or not. And it's the first time he's ever been into a vegan restaurant. And, you know, he's old school in terms of the food that he makes. Vegan food is not on that list.
Yeah.
So, he didn't
Did he
say a
love it?
lot, which was all I could ask for.
He wasn't yelling at
He
you that
wasn't
you'd serve him fake
He didn't
meat.
flush
so-
anything down the toilet. So
That
the
you
fact
know of.
That I know of. No, I watched. So that was probably what I was most nervous about, actually. I guess only because he was a chef and
Yeah,
someone
fair.
I
That can
respect
be a
quite a
little
lot.
bit scary.
Yeah, do you know, I don't really care if Hilary Duff likes my food or not, but I definitely care if Marco Pierre White thinks I'm shit or not.
Yeah, totally. So you mentioned Italian food. So now you guys are doing this epic Italian food, but it's not where you started.
No.
And I was super interested in that because I remember coming before and the food was actually really different.
A Latin.
Latin. Yeah. Okay. We were discussing it yesterday.
Yeah.
So why did that change come about? And were you
Mm.
scared to like take that leap?
No, because I get bored. Again, I was bored.
Okay. Well, don't take the Italian away this time though.
Yeah, people have
Oh,
been told
it's
that.
so good. Because Italian's one that when you don't eat meat, you just like miss like, you know, spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, hearty
and just, like,
lasagnas, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
Totally.
Meatballs.
I mean, the idea behind Italian was no one hates Italian. No one ever has said, I hate spaghetti bolognese. Like, ever. I'm sure that has never been said besides right now when I just said it.
And like, and then like when you say like, you know, if I could like eat if I had to eat one cuisine every day, like Italian's such an easy one. Like I always say Italian to that question.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, there's good variation, like pizza, pasta.
And you can go spicy or mild, you can go fresh or you can go heavy. It's good for summer and winter. It's perfect. Yeah. Where a lot of cuisines definitely, when it's really hot, you don't want to eat, you know, certain things. So I agree with you on that one. And I mean, the Latin thing was because my father's side of the family is Spanish, and he came here in his teens. So I grew up with Spanish food, and then I lived in the States on and off for 8 years as well. And so living in LA, I guess you guys have lived in LA too, right?
Yeah.
So the Mexican food there becomes quite a big part of your diet as well. Yeah. So, you know, I got influenced a lot by that with my time over there. Obviously not influenced by Mexican food in Australia because that's just
totally
embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But over there I did. So bringing those sort of things here, and there weren't really any vegan options for Mexican food at the time. Well, not good ones anyway. But I just got a bit bored of using cumin and smoked paprika every day, I guess. So I wanted a new ingredient profile. So we went Italian. And then all of a sudden, everyone in Australia is doing Italian food, which is a little bit crazy now. Like
we love to go in waves. Yeah, like I feel like the pizza is like the biggest thing ever here.
Totally. I love pizza.
Yeah, I could eat pizza every day. I think.
Yeah, pizza's so good.
Yeah. So I wish we could do pizza, but I don't have any space for a wood fire oven. So we're just going to leave that to other people.
Some of the things that you do at Smith and Deli just like sound incredible. I was like salivating over Instagram the other day, like red velvet cake and like Reuben sandwiches and like mac and cheese bacon sandwiches. I've never eaten bacon, so like fake bacon is all I get.
Yep.
And I love it.
It's good.
It's so good.
All you want is like fatty and smoky and salty. Yeah. It doesn't really matter how it comes as long as you get those three things.
Totally.
Yeah, 100%.
The deli's fun. The deli's where I spend most of my time now too, because it doesn't have a set menu, and so it's kind of like our little lab.
Cool.
But now I have an incredible team behind me. It's the first time really that both businesses I can walk away from, and my team have just fucking got it on lockdown, you know? And
that's amazing.
Incredible head chef. His name's Josh, and he used to be the sous chef of Icebergs in Sydney.
Oh, cool.
And he went vegan, and they moved to Melbourne, and so grabbed him up as soon as possible. And so he's sort of taken the lead at the restaurant, and he makes sure that when I'm not there, everything is just spot on. And then my team at the deli are just so epic, and my pastry girl, Elle, who is just... You haven't met anyone like her.
The croissants. They look
stupid,
insane.
you know? And like, I can basically tell her what I want. And we have obviously a big folder of base recipes, you know, that we opened up with. And she's just taken those now and just gone crazy. And there's no rules at the deli, and I let them do whatever the hell they want. And they know that it's fine until I get a call from me telling them to pull it off the shelves because they've gone too far. Like that mac and cheese sandwich, you know, I was telling them not to do that for a long time because I don't want... Because, of course, that went viral.
Oh, my God, because it looked ridiculous.
Yeah, but
so
see,
what do you want about virality?
I do, but I'm just not over a mac and cheese sandwich, do you know? Like,
Yum.
Why is that?
It's just shit.
It's not nutritional.
It's just a shit. That's not what I eat.
Yeah.
It's not what I want to be known for. Do you know? I don't want our business. Like, there's enough of that shit, do you know? And vegan food really tends to gravitate towards that sort of food.
Yeah.
Like fake fried chicken, burgers, all. It's done.
Yeah. I pay that. And like, I respect that because if you're getting a lot of attention for something, it can be hard to like put your foot down and be like, no, that's not actually what I want.
Well, it's like, you know, I know that if I took my top off on Instagram, I'd get a whole lot of likes, but I'm not going to do that.
Totally.
Mac and cheese is
the
exactly
easy win.
like you taking
Mac
your
and
top
cheese
off.
is the tits of the food world, you know?
To be fair, you can't get a good mac and cheese sandwich in Australia.
Good. You shouldn't.
No, like I'm always seeing like people's Instagrams in New York when they have these like crazy mac and cheese sandwiches. I'm like, I want that here.
Yeah, but the people that are eating those mac and cheese sandwiches, you don't want to look like that. They're not healthy.
Yeah, I pay that.
Yeah.
So one last little question. What do you attribute your success to? You mentioned hard work before. Do you feel like that's really what it is?
Yeah, and my mother, for sure. She, you know, I guess when you grow up with a single parent and you watch them bust their ass, how could you not follow in their lead? You know, like it's just... When my parents got divorced, she got as many jobs as it took to pay the bills, sold jewelry to buy me a violin. Do you know, like if I don't know how I couldn't become who I am because of her, you know. And she just yesterday had her last bout of chemo for the second time now, and she's
congrats.
still, and you know, and she just looks incredible, and she's still killing it. And we still have to tell her to like stop doing the gardening when she's radiating with chemotherapy, you know, because she's just an absolute machine. So Smith and Daughters and Smith Deli and me as the person I am today would be nothing without her. So everything.
I love mums.
Oh my God. Your
Oh
mum
my God.
sounds
They're just
incredible.
magic.
She's just the best, you know, and they've got like 9 Harley Davidsons, and she's just the most epic rad.
She has 9 Harley Davidsons?
Yeah.
Does she also dye her hair colours?
Not these colours, but she does. She used to be a fashion designer actually, and she was the first woman to design men's suiting for women in the 80s.
Wow.
So the big double-breasted, huge shoulder pads, very Barbra Streisand,
So
that
cool.
kind of vibe, you know, and she was quite prolific in the fashion industry in Australia for quite a while, and then she became a fashion agent, and we used to go to New Zealand Fashion Week together, and she used to go to New York Fashion Week and do a lot of buying. So she's just the absolute coolest.
So that's where you got it.
Is she just like so proud of you?
Yeah,
like,
she is.
She, like,
That's
the
why I
most
do this,
chuffed?
you know. I just want to be successful so I can pay it back.
Yeah.
Really, like, you know, if I ever made that first million, like that first million's gone to my mum. You know,
That's
paying off
awesome.
her house, or it's taking her on a huge holiday, or it's something, you
Yeah.
know, like that's why I want to do this, really.
That's
Yeah,
really
that's
cool
so
to hear.
nice.
Love that.
Mm.
Well,
Awesome.
it has just been so incredible chatting with you.
So cool.
Thanks.
We've talked about having you on the podcast for a while because I just think that your story is so cool and not enough people know about it. So I'm excited that we get to just like spread the word.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for having me.
No worries. We do always wrap up on some quick fires.
Go on.
So we do have a few little quick last questions for you.
Number 1, what's your favorite meal?
Szechuan hot pot, noodle hot
So
pot.
random.
Jess really wanted you to say steak there. Like she just thought that would.
I put that there to make way for you to answer.
It's not vegan.
Is
though.
it vegan?
No, it can be. There's a vegan one on my Instagram page.
Okay.
How many times have you dyed your hair?
Every 4 weeks since I was 15.
Whoa,
I'm
I think.
37 now.
Okay, you do the math.
Yeah, you do them.
Is it always the same color? Does it
It's been
change?
blue. Well, I just dyed the front black because it started falling out a bit. So I'm giving it a bit of a break. But it's always been, even in my learner's permit license, my hair was the same color as it is now. It's always been like aqua.
Oh, cool.
green,
You got like
blue.
a signature. I
Yeah.
think I've dyed my hair 4 times in my life.
God, that's why it looks so good though.
That's why it stays thick.
Yeah.
Next question. What do you do for fun?
This is going to be so lame. I cook.
I thought that was the answer.
I have dinner parties at my house.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
fun.
You know, being able to cook without a timer on and
Yeah.
just be able to make the most of it. Like go out to markets in the morning. Sometimes I do go south side. I like going to South Melbourne Market.
Oh, cool.
yeah, it's
And
good.
Clay Pots is there on the corner. And I love
I
sort
mean,
of...
it's just south side.
It's just
it's
south,
barely
yeah.
south.
But it's still
it's like in the
across
middle.
water. You know, I love going there, doing one lap and then going to Clay Pots, having a glass of like Prosecco or something, having a snack, getting a little bit of a buzz on, and then buying way more food than I need to, and then inviting people around and then just cooking and eating and getting...
Yeah, that's so fun. No one's ever saying no to that invitation
No,
as well. They're
exactly.
like, oh,
Yeah.
she's calling. It's
Oh,
time.
no, I'm busy.
She's been to Clay Pots. Like,
yeah.
If you could open Smith & Daughters anywhere in the world, where would it be?
New York.
Oh, cool.
that
That'd
would
kill
be
it.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Well, we kind of talked about this, but I'll ask it anyway. Most famous person who's ever eaten at Smith & Daughters?
I'd say right now probably Billie Eilish. We're talking about the most famous right
Yeah,
now.
cool. I paid that. She's
She's
on the cover
huge.
of Vogue.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. So I think currently she'd probably be
Yeah.
number one.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
you've ticked that off.
Yeah. And now
Okay.
we don't talk about Morrissey anymore because he's turned into a giant asshole.
Has
Oh.
he?
Yeah. Yeah. Look it up. He's just a big racist mess at the moment.
Okay,
no.
great.
I
Definitely not
know.
talking about him.
I
then.
know.
Okay, we'll stick with Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.
Awesome.
It's been so much fun.
Awesome.